This bee balm is literally crawling with bees. Wow.
I just thought, a pink onion, why not try it?
Our hostas do well in Minnesota. They like our temperatures.
We have things blooming from early spring to late fall.
It's fun to imagine what this place will be like in a few years. We've just gotten started.
Hello and welcome to Great Gardening. I'm your host, Sharon Yung, and as usual, we have our experts here with us. They are garden professionals Deb Byrns Erickson and horticulturist and educator Bob Olen. We want to hear from gardeners across our region who have questions for our experts. We have phone volunteers from the St. Louis County Master Gardeners taking your phone questions this evening. Call locally at 218-788-2844 or simply email us at ask@pbsnorth.org. We're taking questions throughout the show, so call or email us now while we begin tonight's show with a look at the weather in our region.
Greener every time.
That's
pretty soon we'll be mowing it, right?
Yeah, right.
Or half mowing, high mow, May.
Right.
Yeah.
No mow May, it's now high mow May.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this garden is really nice when the kids are walking to school at Congdon, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, we really have to thank a lot of the garden clubs, the beautiful job that they do in our beautiful city.
Peonies. Nice.
They're coming out, signs of spring.
And now every day things emerge very, very quickly. Days are getting obviously a lot longer. Grass is really greening up.
Lupin's there. Nice.
Lupin, do you think?
I think so in the middle
Yeah.
of us.
Oh, there we go. Anyone that missed the beautiful dandelions?
The bees' favorite.
Yeah.
Bees need it. The bees needs. More buds.
More buds, look like maple buds there. So it's very interesting. You know, we've had warmer temperatures, but we got cold soils, and it's been a little while for these buds to really begin to break throughout the region. But they're well on their way now.
They are. Well, and you can see summer is right around the corner. Next, you can see Duluthian Elizabeth Donnelly's beautiful flower garden.
I'm Elizabeth Donnelly, and these are my gardens. I've had peonies in my life, my entire life. My grandfather was a hybridizer. We moved 7 times when I was in childhood, and the last thing we packed up and put on the moving truck was our peony roots. This is Kansas. For anybody who grows it, it's awesome color, sturdy stems, tall. Kansas is a double. And Mr. Ed here is a bomb. Those are the 2 of the primary shapes of blooms. The difference is that there's 2 types of petals, and then a double will just look like this, same petals all the way through. And Scarlett O'Hare, who's finished blooming, is a single. So she has just 1 row of outer petals. Golly is pink and yellow, so it's a wonderfully joyous balm peony, but it's one of the last ones to bloom. This is Hermione, which has a really sweet scent. It is honey gold. That's vivid rose. It smells exactly like a rose. They're pretty easy to grow. It's a northern plant because it needs 600 hours of below freezing temperature to bloom. Walter Maines is a very interesting peony. If you notice, his inside is confetti shaped. Chocolate Soldier is a pretty little red tucked down there. Dinner Plate is opening today, which is one of the last ones, and it's so dense that it will, when it's fully open, it will be the size of a dinner plate. This tree peony is called the Sun. Prometheus. It's an amazing tree peony. This is Doreen, and she's new this year. This is Angel Cheeks, a good smelling one of the old varieties. That is the only peony that I have in my garden that my grandfather was involved in the hybridization of. It has lacquered petals. You can see how shiny they are. Helen Matthews, her petals are heart-shaped, and so we press them and then stick them in valentines.
I'm sure you can agree those peonies are incredible. Now, Deb, what did you want to share with our viewers this week?
Well, I was just going to talk about how everyone's gone to the greenhouse and they've gotten all kinds of things, spent a lot of money, or they have also been growing things in their, wherever their production or propagation area is. And so now I want to just talk about how we can make sure that we do the best care for them as we're going to be putting them out. So I was talking about hardening off seedlings in 7 days. Now this is just down the road, but just to be prepared so you know what undertaking it's going to be. So first, it will help with heat stress. If you look at that picture of that poor marigold on there, that one had heat stress. It could have also had wind desiccation, and it can present the same, but it looks like it was really dry, but it's really from full sun and full wind going straight out of a greenhouse or straight out of your own propagation, and it can lead to transplant shock and scorched leaves. So hardening off can take up to 2 weeks if the weather has dramatic temperature swings, which we always do. We go up and down quite a bit. Tonight we're going to have another cold night, and so it will take you up to 10 days to 2 weeks, but it's a kind of a good plan to have for 7 days, and it can be done with the things you start. And the things that are grown in a greenhouse have been protected, they've been perfectly cared for, and so they are going to need some care when going outside. So how to harden them off in 7 days. So you can start when your transplants are with true leaves, at least a couple inches, a little bit taller, is nice to just start this process, but we're talking at the end of May. This is just to prepare. So on day 1, you can start by setting the seedlings outside in partial sun, and that's seedlings, or that is anything you've gotten from a greenhouse. And so then it is for 2 to 3 hours outside the first day in partial sun. I like the evening because it's warmer and you can get some dappled sun, and only 2 to 3 hours. Then day 2, you can set outside in full sun for 2 to 3 hours, just moving it a little bit. And then day 3, if you put it out for about 4 hours with a slight breeze, you're getting used to the wind desiccation, a little bit of drying, because that wind really does dry out things. And then day 4, they go outside for 5 to 6 hours of full sun. Now this is a full-time job, right? So now you're walking your plants in and out all the time, but you've paid money for them, or you've invested a lot of time in them. So you really want to take care of them for this, time of hardening off. And then day 5, set them out all day and protect from predators, because nobody wants a rascally rabbit to eat everything that they have worked so hard on. Day 6, set outside. You can leave it out. Now, again, we're watching temperatures. We're watching the weather forecast. And and it's good to, if you keep them off the ground overnight, because the ground is so cold and it will get cooler quicker. And if you're going to cover them at night, it's good to cover them early. Don't wait until it is cold, because you want to hold that heat that's already there. And then day 7, you can transplant out. Hopefully it'll be a cloudy day, because that really helps with the transition, and so that it's not quite so wind desiccation, not full sun, not shock, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can transplant them out, best, again, cloudy weather. I like to do it later in the day, again, depending on weather, just because of if it's cloudy and it's not quite as cold as it is in the morning, get them used to that also. Or you can use a mini greenhouse. You can use those wall of water to protect your warmer seedlings outside. So then, like that picture of that marigold that was there, so when these come out of a greenhouse, they're well cared for, and then this is the way they should look. And if you harden off, then these guys are going to continue to look like this, and you won't be scared and then call your greenhouse and say, I don't know what I did, what do I do? Well, you just need to harden them off a little bit longer, and they will be much happier with you if you do that for them.
That's great advice for people who weren't taking notes. I think you said it's going to take a little bit of time for them to adjust. A little bit more sun each day, a little bit more wind each day, and protect from the predators.
Exactly.
Great.
Mm-hmm. We've been waiting all winter, right? Protecting now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, thanks, Deb. Now, those of you at home, keep emailing and calling in your questions. We're going to get to a couple right now. Chris in Pengilly says hi and has an old oak tree pretty much in the sand that needs to come down, and they're looking for a replacement tree. It's all alone in the backyard, and the birds love it. They're looking for something that's pretty, grows quickly, and tolerates the soil. Do you have any suggestions?
Sandy soil.
Yeah, it's going to be sandy. You know, if he wants deciduous, he has a lot of different options there. I think the drainage, I think, is good. He would have his choice, really, of any number of tree species. Grows oaks, so evidently it's rather temperate. You probably want to look at the maple basswood complex in Pengilly. I think you could do well with any number. There's a lot of species there. He wanted quick. Now, there are always going to be trade-offs. We've got soft maple and hard maple as an example. All your soft maples are going to grow faster. They have a part of silver maple as part of the genetics, but they're not going to last quite as long. They're not going to be as wind hardy and wind taught. There can be a lot of shattering. So there is a trade-off. If you got a little more time, you can get a little better species, the hard maples, the sugar maples, the red maples. So you have to think about those options. If you got lots of time, go with the hardier species.
Yes, for sure.
Like the oak that they started with.
Well, Julie in Hermantown wants to know if it's safe to plant onions now.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yes. Bob Byrns has been out there all day, I'll tell you. And so have you, right? How many did you put in today?
We put in 6,000. So we've been busy.
Yep,
From
so do it.
From transplants,
plant
now's
those
the time to
onions.
do it.
Plant those onions. Joy in Two Harbors has lady slippers in her yard that were eaten by deer last fall. Will they grow back this year?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. How much, when were they eaten by the deer, and how much root storage did they have?
Yeah, that's
kind of the
that's
question.
the big issue. I wouldn't be overly optimistic if they took them right down to the ground, and if it was earlier in the season.
I know if it's early, if it's like that, yeah.
Later in the
August,
season, there's
depending.
plenty of
October,
storage.
we'd be good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Daniel from Grand Rapids wants to know which plants were best to plant with banana peels.
Oh,
Well, banana peels.
okay.
Got a magic
Potassium,
little
okay.
potassium there. I think banana peels, they compost real well. You got your choice there. I don't think there's any. We have with some things like the walnuts, we have what we call an allelopathic effect, where you can have some negativity. I don't think there's any problems really with
Anything.
Banana peels.
anything.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt anything.
Take your choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Rosemary from Babbitt is asking when she should fertilize June-bearing strawberries.
Okay, the June-bearing varieties, I really think you want to get some nitrogen to them right now
away.
at this time, right as they're beginning to emerge, when you've got a lot of leafy green tissue. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Or the
you want to
bud
go
set
now
and-
rather than
yeah.
later, because you want that green tissue there that'll finish off you're going to get the flower buds and then the fruit. So
Right.
that fertility should go on.
Especially if they're already starting.
Yeah.
You know, just let them get growing a little bit before you apply.
Then the other time, we tend to renovate June-bearing beds, and then if you're going to cut them back and renovate them, then we fertilize at that point to bring the new growth on as well.
Okay. Lynn from the Iron Age wants to know if you can plant peonies by lilacs.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't think
I
there's a
mean, not
problem.
in the shade of them, not in the shade of them, but if you planted them outside of them, they're going to coexist very well together.
Sure.
Okay, and Lorian Hibbing says, every year I rake out my flower beds of most of the leaves I've replaced in the fall for winter protection. I have so much grass in my perennial flower beds to pull, but what am I doing wrong?
Nothing. Grass is just so aggressive.
Yeah,
I
it is.
think she's not doing anything wrong there. I think that you just have to stay on top of it and continue to pull it out, and pull out that long underground rhizome and the stolons that are in there as well.
All right, well, thank you for all the questions. And next, we want you to know, we're looking for more photos of your gardens for the local dirt. As you're gardening this season, please email your photos to the same email at ask@pbsnorth.org for a chance to be on a future episode of Great Gardening. Now, we're looking forward to seeing what you've got growing this season, so send those photos in. We've got a lot more gardening to talk about. Bob, what have you got in store for our viewers?
Well, as Deb mentioned, this time of year we can get a lot of variability. It was just a little over a week ago. We had snow on the ground, and we had just away from the hill and farther north we had some snow that actually accumulated. Now here it's going to be very, very warm coming up,
80
and
this
frost
weekend.
tonight, supposedly again, as it was last night in many areas. So I think I wanted to give people the average frost dates. If we take a look at the airport temperatures, in Duluth at the airport, May 19th, is the average frost. In other words, last frost comes half the time before that, half the time after that. Down at the harbor, May 22nd. Over in Superior, because they have a little more lake effect, that's May 15th. And then we get farther north, both Hibbing and Ely, it's all the way out to June 10th. Now remember, this is the average frost date. There's still a 30% probability of frost after that average frost date. So you have to be really careful if you want to set things out early. You can be tempted, but you might want to have some kind of a strategy in mind for covering in the event we get that sudden change in temperature. As far as planting things, you know, we mentioned the soils were cold, but the upper 2-3 inches now have warmed very dramatically in the last couple of days here. You can always plant your salad crops, your lettuce, your radish, onions, which we had the question earlier, carrots, beets, Swiss chard, cabbage, broccoli. We want to probably stay away from the cauliflower transplants because that head is setting up and that can button off if it's exposed to colder temperatures. And then spinach, certain varieties in particular are vulnerable to frost, so you just want to be ready to cover. And then, of course, you're going to avoid planting all your frost-sensitive warm season crops from everything from peppers to tomatoes until late May or early to mid-June, depending on where you're located. A lot of people are going to be planting things. I think it's a great time to put trees and shrubs in the ground. The earlier in May, the better. And it just occurred to me that there are really 3 P's that you want to think about: pruning, planting, how to plant it, and then protecting. In the case of pruning, we'll show you a little schematic of this. You want to prune to a central leader. We'll show you why. And then we'll take a look at the proper planting techniques, followed up by protecting everything that you put in the ground. Just a quick little diagram. When we talk about pruning to a central leader, you want that one main vertical stem. You don't want 2 stems at the top to be fighting, otherwise they get a crotch and they can't support a lot of weight. And you can break that tree right down the center. Second year, we're going to continue to prune along like this. Even in the third year, you'll notice that we still have that strong central leader. So that's the basic concept, relatively simple. Then when we take a look at planting, whether you're container growing stock or whether you're planting bare root stock, in the case of trees here, we're going to take a look at what and the depth in particular that these should be planted. A lot of people plant these too deep. So we'll take a look at the next slide here. And all of our apples in particular, they are all grafted onto a hardy crabapple rootstock. And there's this graft union or junction. Oftentimes people will put that in the ground or at ground level. That is going to be too deep. You want to take a look at where the flare roots are. And here's an example. If you can imagine that shovel handle there being the soil line, you want those flare roots, the major roots coming off, to be just below the soil line. And that typically is going to be, the graft notch is going to be above that. So I'd like to show you an example here, which I think a homeowner that had a problem, tree died on them, a relatively young tree, and as Deb has mentioned, these are valuable investments now that should last 50 years. They planted it right at the ground level right here. Everything below that, the actual bark came off, and then there's cell tissue in here that was all damaged and destroyed. This should have really been planted at this level here, where the soil line is just above these major flare roots. But you get them in too deep, it kills this tissue, that kills the entire tree.
All right, well, thanks.
So this is where you want to really get, when you're pruning, this is why you want structural strength. You'll see those laterals coming off because you want to support a lot of the fruit, and we will show you the potential. Even a tree that's young, there's a lot of fruit, and then you want to protect real quickly, protect that main stem with collars, and then obviously from the deer. So there's a well-protected, well-pruned tree for you.
Thank you, Bob. Remember, there's still time for you to call or email your questions, so let's get to a couple more. Lee in Duluth is worried about perennials and the frost tonight. Should she protect them? Peonies, daylilies, tulips, daffodils, iris?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. They're ready for it. They acclimate to it, and I don't think it's a problem.
And you're right, it's frost and not a heavy freeze. If we had 20 degrees, it'd be different, but we're going to get 30, 32.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Great. Diane in Pike Lake has pine trees and apple trees with 1 square foot of grass between them. She wants to know what type of fertilizer to use to make the grass grow better.
Oh, the big problem is not fertility. I'm concerned about shade.
Yeah,
more than
they're
anything
so
else.
close. How
Yeah,
can they
they're
be
so
that close?
Yeah. So I
That's a
think
big
she can
concern.
use just a regular lawn fertilizer that goes on before the next rain, or you have to wash it in. But I think more than anything, it's just a lack of sunlight. Grass needs sun.
Yeah, for sure. Darlene in Iron has a Martha Washington geranium in her house. It doesn't bloom, and she's thinking of putting it outside this year. Any other suggestions?
Okay, well that's interesting. I don't know why it wouldn't bloom. I'm going to guess that it probably isn't getting enough sunlight inside. It needs to go outside. The great thing about Martha Washington geraniums is they can take a little bit cooler temperatures, and that really helps them. They don't like hot blazing sun, but they do need full sun. They need at least 6 hours of good sun. On the east side is great for them just because it's a little bit cooler sun before it comes around to the west side or the south side, but at least 6 hours of sun.
Kathy in International Falls has a garden with a 100 by 200 foot chain link fence around the garden. She's looking to kill the grass right around the fence on the outside. When should she apply the herbicide to the grass? The grass type is unknown.
Okay, well, you know, I think for grasses like that, if she's careful, follows all the label directions, but glyphosate would be the active ingredient. Much more effective in the fall. I will mention with the chain link fence, however, it's corrosive to metal. So if that's galvanized, she wants to be sure that she protects that with a piece of plastic before she makes the application. But according to label directions, fall, it'll be very effective for her.
Okay. Shar from Duluth has a question about using wood ashes on her vegetable garden.
Did she get a soil test? Or does she know what she needs? That's the biggest question. Does she need it?
That's it, exactly.
Because you could do a lot of damage without a soil test.
It's a liming agent. If your soil test recommends a lime application, you can actually use a little bit less wood ash because it has a higher calcium carbonate equivalent. So it's a very potent liming agent. So if you don't need it, don't apply it.
Dale in Duluth has a large American maple, about 20 to 25 years old, approximately 30 feet tall. It's blocking the view of the lake, and they want to cut it back. Would 3 feet be okay?
So they're going for the view corridor. That's what, okay. I mean, you could. 3 feet, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Depending on how they're going to
Right,
prune
right.
it up
But 3 feet, that's not too dramatic, especially with a tree that big.
Carol in Duluth has a bed of Vinca minor, about 5 years old, that died this year, and wondering why.
Completely died? What was so dry in the fall? I've heard a lot of this from customers that some of their stuff, I watered it well. Well, I don't think you did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And what I've been telling people to do is to cut back things and see if you get to green. Now that Vinca minor is going to be easy to see if it's green or not because you're going to pull on it, tug on it, see if there's any resistance. If there's not, you're probably going to lose it. But I always subscribe to the fact that you should cut it back, see if there's any green inside, and when you get to the green, stop. But if it's not, then pull it.
We did have, in some ways, in some areas, a tough winter. We had no snow early, and we had some cold temperatures, so that's probably a contributing factor. But sometimes they're very slow to emerge, too.
Absolutely.
So be patient.
Especially if it's gotten shady
Right.
in that area, because that'll keep the soil temperatures cooler,
It
too.
does point out a good thing, but winter hardiness, one of the factors is how well has that plant been grown during the growing season. So water throughout the entire season when there's a lot of green tissue there.
Yep.
Rebecca says, I grew my vegetables, tomatoes, winter and summer squash, and cucumbers in hay last year and had a lot of trouble with powdery mildew towards late July and August during a rainy period. Will those spores affect the new plants sprouting or planted this year in the same hay?
They can. Same hay? Absolutely. I'd replace the hay. I wouldn't
would
use the
too.
same hay.
Yeah, don't take the risk.
Nope. I
All
wouldn't.
right. Mary is asking, how soon can we plant a new hydrangea in zone 4?
Oh, right now,
Right
I
now,
think.
yeah.
Get them in the ground.
All right. Jenny in International Falls has a lot of deer, lives on a lake in a wooded area with a lot of shade. I have ferns and shade ground cover, but I'm looking for some color. Can you give me some ideas?
Okay, so you could use a Sisimofugia snake root that has really nice foliage, a finer foliage they seem not to like as much, and they are breeding new hostas that have more corrugation to them, and so then they're not supposed to like that either. And maybe some Sun King Aurelia, just because it's got some nice texture to it too.
Dave in Carlton wants to know what's the best option for garden walkways. The goal is so you can walk between rows, etc.
Oh, garden.
Garden walkways. I'd kind of like to know if he's talking about a perennial garden and we're looking for structure there, or if he's just talking about, you know, walking into an annual. Annuals, we like organic mulches because they break down very readily. But if it's going to be a permanent walkway, then they have any number of choices.
I was wondering if you meant a garden, like, you know, when he's walking the garden, you know, to keep the weeds down. You know, like your garden.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of different things there too.
Could do a number of different things.
Yeah, we have time for one more. Sandy in Hibbing wants to know if you can plant different varieties of strawberries together in the same bed.
Sure,
yeah,
you can. But you want to pick really good varieties that you're putting together, not, I mean, you don't want to put weaker things in with your better materials. So you're going to have to watch what is the, how good are they? Are they June bearing? Are they ever bearing?
Yeah, that's going to be the distinction. Is it a June bearing, ever bearing, or day neutral variety? And those varieties should all be separated. So you could plant multiple cultivars of a June variety, multiple cultivars of a day neutral, but you don't want to mix the day neutrals with the June bearing.
Got it. Thanks so much for your questions and for joining us this evening on Great Gardening. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. And I'd like to thank our volunteers who answered the phones tonight. And of course, a special thank you to our gardening experts, Deb Byrns Erickson and Bob Olen, for sharing their time and expertise. We'll see you next time in June with even more tips to help you grow a beautiful and successful garden this year. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.